Welcome to a new guide on this channel, and on this occasion is the PRO-800 from Behringer. Everything on this guide is in chapters, so if you look at the description or the timeline, you can jump to a section or skip the ones you don't want. If you like this, please like and subscribe, and if you have the money and you want to buy me a coffee just to say thanks, you can check the QRs on the screen or the links at the description. Alright, so this is an analog synth, so within the first minutes of operation, you might need to press the tune button to recalibrate. Now when you press it, it's going to start the tuning. It is going to go through the V, and the V means voices, 1 means the voice number, and then it's going to cycle from all the 8 voices. Then A represents the oscillators, the filters, the F is going to be the filters, and 0 the octaves. Now the whole tuning might take a few seconds. Alright, so when it's done, you can play something and it should be right there in tune. Now still we have something else, is going to be a fast calibration. Now this is something you do after, you do the full calibration. So maybe you're using it and after, 30 minutes, you need to calibrate again, but it takes, a long time. So you can press and hold, maybe you can count 1, 2, 3, 5. And when you release it, it's going to do the calibration, which is going to be super fast. And there it goes. It took like 10 seconds or, even less. Okay, so presets, banks, and init. So you have 4 different banks with 100 presets each. So with this button on, the preset one, you can access through the program select to all the different presets that you have available on that specific bank. And to change the presets, you just need to type the number of the presets. I'm going to go to the number 1. Maybe I'm going to go to, 50. Right, so you can easily change presets just doing that. Now, notice that the preset is on, right, and it's steady. Now, if you change something in the panel, maybe I'm going to go to cutoff and just close it. Notice that the preset starts blinking. Now, this means that you changed some param of the whole sound, right? So you modified that preset. The blinking means that. Now, still, by tapping the preset, it's going to go back to steady, which means that it's going to disregard that change that you made. But if you press it again, it's going to go back to whatever it is that you did. And you can easily, toggle between the original preset or the store preset and whatever change that you made. Now, I'm going to go to the default preset. Now, remember, before we save it, you have 4 different banks. How can you change banks? So you have A, B, C, and D, and it's going to be A, B, C, and then D. And to change them, you need to press and hold the preset, keep holding, and then press the number 2, and it's going to toggle, between the A, B, C, and then 0, which, it's actually a D. And that's it. From factory, the bank C, B, and D, the B, C, and D are completely empty. So if I play something, it's going to give me the default patch. If I change to the number 3, it's going to sound, pretty much the same. Now, only on the bank number A, you have, 99, 100 presets that I guess are the default presets that you get on the original unit. And notice that when I change to a preset, it's going to give me a name. So the first 100 presets, they have names. The rest, when you save them or store them, you cannot change the name, at least not yet. So let's pretend that I really like this sound, right? I really like this patch, so I would like to take this one and paste it on someplace else. So we know that the preset 1, 2, and 3 is going to be changed in banks, but the 5 and the 6 are copy preset and paste preset. Now to copy, I'm going to be going to preset. We always need to hold. I'm going to hold it, then press the 5. It's going to say copied. And now I'm going to be changing banks, right? So I'm going to go to B and 50 that we know this is a default patch. And I'm going to be pressing and holding the preset, then 6, and then again to confirm the changes. And then it says paste it. Now, sometimes when you play it, what is it? It's the default patch. So you're going to need to press preset again to load the changes. So yeah, you need to do preset 6 to paste and then preset 6 to confirm and then preset again to load the changes. Is a little bit weird, but once you get it, it's just something that you need to do. You can also copy the whole bank, right? So let's say that I'm standing on the bank number B and I want to copy everything on the B and paste it, on the C. So it's the same idea, but the numbers are going to change. The 8 is going to be copy bank and the 9 is going to be copy bank. And we do the same, just hold the preset, then number 8, and it's going to say copy bank. I'm going to be changing banks, going to go to number 3, and I'm going to press and hold the preset, paste the bank, press again to confirm, and then it's going to say paste bank. So now we are standing on the 50, and if I play it, it's the same thing. So I'm going to need to do preset to load, and now we get it. Now we have a little bit more. The 0 is going to be init patch and the 7 randomize. So I'm standing on this one and we do have some some sound. I want to initialize it. I'm going to go to preset, hold it, and then 0, and it's going to say basic patch. And if I play it, then we get it. And if we want to randomize, sometimes you're going to be, landing into something cool. And if I play it, in this case, maybe we don't. I'm going to do it again. There we go. The sub-bass type of deal. If I press again, right? So we are just getting a randomized patch. All right, so let's talk about the Perf mode. Now, so Perf, its performance, and what it does is going to load the panel. It's going to listen to whatever position you have right here on your panel. So if I play something, I'm standing on the patch number 51, and it sounds like that. Now, if I go to Perf and press it one time, both are going to be on. Now, I need to press it again. It's going to get out of the preset, and now the only thing it's listening is to the knobs I have right here. If I play something, it's going to do whatever, whatever we say. Now, if I go back to presets right here, we need to press Perf twice in order to get the panel, right? Why do we get preset and Perf? It is because Perf has a secondary function. It gives us access to the param menu. So in this case, I'm going to be going to Perf. Now, we are only standing on Perf, so it's the what you see, what you get. The panel is, this is the only thing that this is listening. But now the keypad is going to do something else. It will not change presets because we are not standing on the preset mode. So all of the buttons right here, they will give you access to some kind of configuration. The first one, for example, is going to be configurations for the LFO. The 2 is going to be vibrato, the mod wheel, and, VCA, and so on and so on and so on. So right here, you access to the different features, different options that, the button gives you to change maybe the LFO waveform or to change the speed and some other configurations that, we have available on the synthesizer. Now, we're going to go deep into each of the options that we have right here. But the thing is that we need to understand some other parts. So for example, when we talk about the LFO, much later on this video, we are going to go back to the Perf, to the settings and the number 1 to check all the options that we have with the LFO. Now, what is the difference between having preset on and then Perf on at the same time? So when you're standing on, I'm going to go to preset. We are standing on preset and we play something, we get the preset. If we touch the keypad, we're going to be changing the presets. But what if we want to change the configurations of the LFO or the vibrato or, anything else that we have available on the synthesizer? Well, the Perf on and preset on, it means that you're still standing on the preset, but now, since Perf is on, the keypad, the program select, is going to be about the menu, the configurations that we get from the Perf. If I go to 1, it will not change the preset. If I want to go back to the preset mode, you just need to go preset, and we are back, to preset. So if I go to 56, it's just going to go there. So that's the difference. Only on Perf mode is going to be the panel only, and Perf gives you access to the configs. And if we have preset and Perf is the configs of that preset. Okay, so by default, the synthesizer is polyphonic, right? So you have 8 different voices. If I play a chord, it's going to be 3 voices, 4 voices, and so on. That's the default for the synthesizer. I'm standing on a patch where there's pretty much nothing, an init patch. And again, you have different modes. Polyphonic is going to be the default, but right here you have the unison track. This will, take the synthesizer and grab all the 8 different voices and stack the voices on top of each other. So we have that unison. If I turn this on, it's going to be in unison mode. I'm going to need to go down in volume just a tiny little bit because it's going to be a little bit louder. And there's that we get that unison. Now, of course, with unison, it sounds cool when we detune the voices. You don't have an option in the panel to detune the voices, but you can do it. We do it through the configurations. We're going to do it in a second. Now, if this is off, I'm going to turn it off and I'm going to be playing one single key and I'm holding it. If I turn this on, now it's going to be in mono mode. So it means that if I play one key, it's going to be one single voice at a time, just like a mono synth. But this is the third wave that this, the third mode that this has is poly, unison, and mono. Now you have one more. I'm going to just turn this off and it's going to be the chord mode. I'm going to be playing a chord and you need to play a chord. And while you're playing it, then you turn this on, right? It's going to go silent. I'm still playing the keys. I'm going to release them. And now I'm going to be playing one key, but notice that it's just playing the chord. So this is chord mode. You hold the chord, you turn it on, and it's going to remember and then transpose the different keys. Right, so if I go to unison and I play it again, you cannot argue that it doesn't sound like, the cool unison. We know there's no detuning. So to change the detuning when we are using unison, we need to access the other part of the synthesizer. Remember, we have the Perf, which is, the menu configurations, but then we have the settings. And on the settings, we have a lot more options. Now I'm going to go to settings, and just like the Perf, when we are standing on settings, the keypad will only access to the settings menu. Now all of the buttons right here, they will represent something. The one we care right now is going to be the number 8. If I go to the number 8, notice it says unison detune. If I keep pressing, it's going to say voice spread, and then we have more options on each of the buttons. Now the one we care right now is going to be unison detune. So if I play and hold something, this knob is going to be changing the detuning, and we get that nice unison detune. Just, what we want in this case. And you can go really crazy. Right, and you can go back. So this is how you access the detune while you're standing on unison. Cool. Now, for now, I'm just going to go all the way back to 0. Now, while standing on the settings, if I go back to the number 8 and I press it again, it's going to say voice spread. So what the F is this? Now, each voice, we can detune it just a little bit. The thing is that this doesn't work on unison. That's why we have the unison detune. Now, if I go back to poly right here, and then while standing on settings, we go back to that unison detune. Let me find it. There we go. And I play a chord, and I go up crazy on this one. Notice this detuning. Right. And this is because if I go to the next option, the voice spread is going to be on. If I turn this off and I do the same thing again, it doesn't matter. We have a crazy number on unison detune. Go all the way up. There's no detuning. So the voice spread and the unison detune, it means that when we are standing on poly, the unison detune is going to detune the voices, and we get an imperfect sound when we are standing on poly mode. We have 999 on unison detune, and if I go to voice spread, now it's off. So if I play a chord, it sounds cool, right? It sounds right in pocket. If I turn this on, notice that, it's detuning, right? So very detuned. Now still you can go to the unison detune and do a little bit less because maybe this is too much. So again, this is a nice way to add a little bit of imperfection to all the voices. All right, so I covered the presets, the perf, the settings, all of this first before going, deep diving into the panel. First, because these are the most common questions from you on the web. But now I'm going to be covering the rest of the synth. And a lot of the options that we have right here when we go to perf or settings are really related to the different sections. For example, if I go to the LFO, some of the options in perf are really related to the waveforms, to the speed and everything else. So if we don't know how this works, whatever I do right here is it's gonna make no sense until we learn first what we can do by default, and then we can expand it with the options. Since I'm gonna go through all the basics of the synthesizer, you might want to skip some sections because, you already know this. But if you're starting and this is your first synthesizer, you need to really learn how the panel works. Okay, so let's begin with the panel of the synthesizer, and it makes sense that we start with the oscillators. So you have two different oscillators and you have a noise generator. So each oscillator has a volume, and make sure that all the knobs are at the same position, you see right here. So if I play a button, both oscillators are going out. If I turn this one off and turn this one off, there's no volume, right? So we manage the volume from here. Now, funny thing is that if you don't have a waveform selected, you have full silence. So you need to select a waveform to get some sound. Now, each oscillator can do saw, triangle, and pulse. Now, if I go to the first one, I'm going to go with that. So we get a saw, we can get a triangle. Oh, sorry. Oh, there we go. There we go. A triangle, or you can get a pulse. So with the pulse, you can change the pulse width. You can make it narrow, or you can just, make it narrow, but to the other side. And you can only do this with the pulse. This knob or attenuator only works with the pulse. You can make combinations. Let's say I want to combine the saw, and then I bring the triangle and we get a combination. And even, I can go to the square and get a combination of both, or maybe triangle and pulse or square. And all of them, all the combinations are going to give you a different sound. Now, the oscillator 2 is capable of the same thing, same waveforms and the pulse width. Now, still, both oscillators can do frequency. If I play a key, I'm going to be going down this so it's not super bright. If I change the frequency, notice what happens. It's changing in octaves, right? By default, this is the default behavior of the synthesizer. It changes by octaves. What if you want to change by semitones? You can, but it's something that you need to enable from the settings options. And we're going to do that in a second. Now, first, the second oscillator, again, just like I said before, is capable of the same thing. The only difference is that the oscillator number 8 can go into sync mode, and this is something we are going to be talking when we go to the poly mode. But the oscillator number 2 has a fine tune, which means that you can detune it just a tiny little bit. And this is super useful when you're using two oscillators and you want to separate them a little bit more. Right there in the pocket and separate it. Right. Okay, so we can only go by octaves. How can we change it? So all of this is again on the Perf mode, which is the additional params menu. We are already standing on the Perf mode, so whatever we press right here, we access to the options. Now the sixth one, the number 6, is going to toggle between oscillator A frequency, and if I press it again, it's going to go to oscillator B frequency. So it means that we can change this the function or how the frequency knob works differently for each oscillator. So I'm going to go to the oscillator A. It says oscillator A, and now the value, the encoder, is going to change this. It's going to toggle, through different options. So the default, it's octave, is the one we have right now. If I move it, it's going to be FIHD, which is going to be fixed. We're going to talk about that in a second. If I keep moving, it's going to say free. Again, we're going to do it in a second. But the one we want right now, it's going to be semi or semitones. So now the oscillator A, if we move it, it's going to go by semitones. All the way up an octave and all the way down an octave. If I change this one, notice that this is by octaves. So we are only doing the oscillator A in semitones, and this is octaves. And that's something really cool that we can do. We can use different options on both of the oscillators, right? I'm going to go back to the 6. We're already standing right here because it says semi or semi. And if I change this, it's going to go to, and there we go. It's going to be the free. So free means that it will sweep the whole range. I'm going to stand right here. I'm going to play a key. And now we are going to be sweeping. It's not by semitones. We are sweeping the whole range. Now we hear this one. I'm going to turn it off for now, since we are just working with the A. So this is what the free means. Now, when we select the frequency, whatever frequency, it means that it's going to be standing on that frequency, but still, it reacts to the keyboard. If I play different keys, it's just, reacting to whatever pitch we are telling the synthesizer to play. And I'm telling you this because the next mode, it's going to be the fixed. Now, fixed, it means that you're going to be locking the oscillator to a frequency, whatever frequency, it doesn't matter. I'm going to put it right there. It doesn't matter again. So if I play different keys, this is just, not doing it. So fixed means that it's going to be locking the oscillator to a frequency and it doesn't care about the keyboard. Now this has some uses. For example, if I go to the oscillator number B and I play something, I know that this will always be locked to a frequency and it doesn't matter I change or play different keys. This will always play that frequency while the oscillator B is going to do something else. And the last thing is going to be the sync. Again, we're going to talk about that one when we get to the poly mode. Okay, so filters is a pretty straightforward filter. We have a 24 dB per octave, is a 4-pole filter. And then we have the resonance. So if I play something, it's going to be super bright, and you can see it right there in the spectrum. With this one, we're going to be chopping the low frequencies. This is what we can do, right? Now then we have the resonance control, which is going to be a tiny peak at the breakpoint. If we keep going up, at some point we are going to be getting that peak, and it is that we can sweep it. And I know it's a little bit maybe annoying, but that's what it is. That's how it works. Right. Now next, it's going to be the envelope amount. This is how much of this envelope we use to modulate the cutoff control. Right now, it's pretty much nothing. If I go up and I play different keys, it doesn't matter. I'm cutting a lot. The envelope is modulating the cutoff. Now, if you're starting and you don't know how this works, don't worry. I'm going to be explaining how envelopes work on the next section. And if you do have the experience, you can skip this section. But this is going to be the control that will modulate the cutoff with the envelope. For now, I'm just going to leave it at 0. So this is what we know as keyboard control. By default, it's going to be off. But you have 1.5 and you have full. Again, maybe you're starting and you have no effing clue what this is. So this is going to help you with the cutoff. Let me give you an example. If we're cutting a lot of frequencies. If I play a low key, it's going to be pretty dark because we are cutting the high frequencies. So if I play a higher key, this is still going to be pretty dark. I'm going to go up in the octaves. If I play a higher key, this is still pretty dark because the keyboard control is off. We are cutting whatever frequency that you're just outputting the same amount. The low frequencies get cut pretty aggressively and the higher frequencies get cut pretty aggressively. So we can hear a lot of the lows and not a lot of the highs. Now the keyboard control, what it does is going to listen to the keys that we play. And if we play higher keys, the filter is going to open a little bit more by default, letting the higher frequencies pass. And if we play lower notes, it's going to, be a little bit closed. If I maybe go to full so you can hear the difference, if I play a lower key, it's going to sound like that. And if I play a higher key, it's going to sound like that, right? If I go to off, the lower key, and the higher key, it's pretty dark, right? So by going to full, we make sure that the lower keys are just a little bit darker and the higher keys, we don't lose them because we are cutting less on the higher keys. And if I go here, it's going to be less because it's 1.5. And then full off is going to be nothing. So this is a nice way to have low frequencies and high frequencies, and we can hear the high frequencies. If I go to off and I do the same, notice that everything's just super dark. Right, so all of this is just Synthesis 101, and maybe it's just a little bit boring if you have some experience, but maybe you're starting and this is your first synth, which is a very good choice, and all of this information is just very useful. Right, so the modulation of the cutoff when we play the keys, it really depends on the envelopes that we have right here. So let's talk about envelopes. Alright, so we need to talk about envelopes, and again, this is a Synth 101 section. If you already know how an envelope works, you can move on to the next section. If this is your first synth and you're still a little bit confused, you might want to stay. Now, the envelopes is attack, decay, sustain, and release, and it will decide how the volume or the filter is going to move the cutoff. Now, first, you know what? I'm going to be explaining the ADSR for the amplifier, and it works the same way on the filter. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to be going no resonance, nothing here, 0, and all the way up on the filter. I'm going to go all the way down on the ADSR. So the attack is a time-based, the decay is a time-based knob, and the sustain is going to be a value, and the release is going to be a time-based knob. So this is how long it's going to go up. The amplifier, it controls the volume. So how the sound is going to come out. If I go and play something, we get nothing. We just get a tiny little click, super short, right? Now, the attack is going to decide how slowly it's going to go up in amplitude. Now, if I go up and make it something like that, I could press a key, the sound goes up, and at some point it's going to die. And notice I'm still holding a key. So this is a time-based knob. How long is going to take to get to full amplitude. And when it's getting there, it's going to die, right? It's going to go to full silence. Okay, so why is cutting like that? Well, the decay is going to decide that. The attack is going to be how slowly or how it's going to go up. The decay, it decides how it goes down. So if I go up on this one and I play a key, it goes up. The attack, when it reaches max, is going to slowly go down. So this is what the decay is going to decide, how slowly it goes down. Now still, notice I'm holding the key, right? But the sound died. It goes down in volume. Now that's going to be the sustain. If we want to, for the sound to sustain at some point, we need to select the value. So I'm going to be playing a key. It's going to go up. It's going to go down because it's listening to the decay. But the sustain makes it sustain at some point. We can make it sustain at very low volumes with a little bit. And I'm going to do it again. Attack. Going to go up. Full amplitude. Then down to the decay. And at some point, it's going to be stuck on the sustain. Right? So that's what the sustain does. This is why this is not a time-based knob. This is going to slowly decide how slowly it goes up, how slowly goes down, or how fast. And this is going to stop at some point. Now, if I release the keys in 1, 2, 3, the sound dies. So this is going to be the release. What's going to happen when I release the keys? Now, before we go to the release, you need to know that the sustain decides what happens when we sustain the keys. If I go all the way up, it doesn't matter what we do on the decay. It will never decay. Let me just go to one single key. It will never decay. It will never go down. It's going to be stuck right there at the top. All right. So maybe I'm going to do some decay and a little bit of sustain. And now I want to do some release. What's going to happen when we release the keys? Now, if we have nothing, I'm going to make it a little bit faster. If we have nothing and we are still holding, it's going to die instantly. And this is how long you want it to decay or to go to full silence. If I release it, notice that it's slowly or smoothly going down in volume. If I go up, it's going to take a lot more time. This time I'm going to do a chord. I'm going to release it in 3, 2, 1. It dies slowly. So it depends on what you want to do. The release is going to really matter, because if I'm playing something like, notice that all the keys, they take a long time to go back to full silence because we have a long release. If I have something small right here, the voices are just going to die a little bit earlier, right? Now, the ADSR for the filter works the same way, is the same idea. The only difference is that we modulate the cutoff with this control. This is going to be how much. So for now, I'm just going to stay at 0. So what we want to do, we want to move the cutoff up and then down when we play the keys. By how much? Well, this is going to decide by how much. If I go all the way up, it's going to be full of whatever is that we are doing here. And right here is the same principle. I'm going to go all the way down in cutoff, all the way up on envelope amount, and all the knobs are down. If I play a key, we just get a click, just like, we did with the amplifier. So the attack is going to be how long it will take this knob to go up to full. So we need to provide a value. I'm going to be playing it. It goes up to full, and then at some point, it's going to die because we have no decay. If I do a little bit of decay, it's going to go up, it reaches max, and then goes down. What if we wanted to sustain? So maybe I want to go up slowly, go down slowly, but I don't want to go all the way down. Maybe I want to stay right, maybe there, somewhere in between. So this is what the sustain is going to do in this case. If I play it, it's going to go up, it's going to go down, all the way down to the same position. So we get full silence. If I decide to stay somewhere in between, it's going to go up, it's going to decay, but now notice that it's sustaining at some point. But this is what the sustain does, and you can't change it while you're holding a key. Now, if I release a key, it's going to die. Instant silence. Now, this is because you have no release on the main amplifier, but also because you have no release on this one. So what's going to happen when we release the keys? It's going to slowly or smoothly go down. It's going to go super fast. I'm going to say around 4. So we can really see this. I'm going to be playing a key, and you know what? I'm going to do a chord. Goes up, goes down, sustains, and now I'm going to release it in 3, 2, 1, and it's, going down. If we do it slowly or smoothly, it's a little bit different. I'm going to hold it, decays, sustains, release it in 3, 2, 1, smoothly dies. Now with the envelope amount, remember you can go into negatives, which is going to be the same thing that we are doing right here. We are using this envelope to maybe go down, maybe start right here and go up. But if we can go to the other side, it means that it's going to be doing the opposite, of what we are doing right here. Some synthesizers can go into negatives when we talk about the envelope amount. Some others can't. In this one, you can. Okay, so now it's time we talk about the LFO, and what we can do with the LFO is what we have right here in the panel, but we have more options in the menu. We're going to go there in a minute. Now make sure you have the same settings that I have right here, and you're standing only on the performance mode. So you have 3 main destinations. You have the A and the B of the frequency, pulse width modulation, and you can do filter. Now first, I'm going to be going to freq EMB, A and B, which is going to be the oscillator A and the oscillator B. Now you need to do something on the LFO. You can choose between a triangle, or you can use a pulse right here. Now we can change this. We're going to do it in a minute. So if I play something, we are not doing anything. I'm doing a little bit of cutoff. If not, it's going to be way too bright. So this is going to be how fast it's going to go and how much modulation we're going to get. All the way to 0, you get no modulation. If I go up, we start getting it. And we are doing it with a pulse. I'm going to be going to a triangle, and we are just modulating this knob up and down, just like that. How fast is going to be this one? And if I go up, all the way up, it's going to be much faster, right? So that's it. We are modulating the frequency of the A and the B at once. If I go to pulse, it's going to be like an on and off type of deal. We can attenuate this a little bit. And if you go all the way up, it's going to be super aggressive. Alright, so that's how the LFO works on a nutshell. Okay, I'm going to stay right there with the triangle. If I turn this off, we get no modulation at all. We can do the pulse width modulation, so we can modulate the pulse width of the A and the B at the same time. So I'm going to be turning this, and I'm going to go to a pulse on both oscillators. Now, if I turn this on, we can see right there on the oscilloscope that we are modulating the pulse width indeed. Alright, so again, pretty simple controls. Understandable. This is something that you get on most synthesizers. Alright. Now the other thing that you can do is going to be filter modulation, which means that we are going to be modulating the cutoff with whatever LFO that we have right here. We go really aggressive, or we can tone it down just a tiny little bit. If I play a chord, right, so that's what we can do by default. It's going to be A and B frequency, pulse width modulation of A and B, and then we can do the filter. Right, so we are not stuck with the triangle or the pulse. We can use the other waveforms. The only thing is that we need to access them through the menu. Now, when performance is on, the number 1 is going to be that. Now, when you go here, you're going to have several options. It's going to say LFO shape. If I press it again, it's going to say target, and then it's going to say LFO speed. Now, I'm going to go back to shape. This is what we need to discuss first. Now, with the encoder, we can select which combination of LFOs, waveforms we can use. And you cannot independently select the waveforms. You can use a combination. It's going to be triangle and then square. And then, we go to the second line. It's going to be a sine wave and then the other one and so on and so on. So right here, we are going to be able to see it. I'm going to be moving this and I'm going to be going to RNSI. You can see that. So that's going to be random. And it's going to be sine. So now we are on sine, and I'm going to be playing it, and maybe I'm going to be doing a pitch. It can be a little bit obvious, and I'm going to go slower. So now we are in sine. The other one is going to be random. I'm going to go faster. Right, so again, random and sine. What's the next option? Well, if I move on, it's going to be an S and then S. A, I guess it's an A. Well, it's going to be noise and saw. So right now we are standing on noise. Now we are standing on saw. Right. Then again, if you keep moving on this one, we are back to the beginning, which is going to be PLTR, and it's the pulse and a triangle, which is, the first thing that we had by default. So remember pulse and triangle, then RNSA is going to be random and sine, and then the other one is going to be noise and saw. And like I said before, you cannot combine different waveforms. You just can use the pre-assigned ones. Now, if I still go to the number 1 and press it again, it's going to be LFO target. And it says AB. So the target for the LFO is going to be by default A and B, oscillator A and oscillator B. So what you can do right here is you can change the target. You can maybe target the A and not the B. And if I go right here, you can choose a combination. If I keep moving, it's just going to be the A. If I play something, notice that the modulation, maybe I'm going to go slower and brighter. It's just doing it to the A. If I move it, it's going to be just to the B. And if I move it, it's going to be VCA. Now, wait, why do we get a VCA? If I go up on this one, what can you hear? So you can go disable, in this case, the frequency of A and B, and you can target the amplifier. So it's going up and down in volume. So we get a tremolo. And you should not confuse a tremolo with vibrato. Vibrato does pitch, and in this case, tremolo is going to be amplitude. I know that Fender got it wrong in the 50s, but that's what it is. So you have VCA, you can target the VCA, or A and B, or B, and right here you need to choose which one you want to modulate with the LFO. So I'm going to stay on A and B, and I'm going to press the one more time, and you have the LFO speed. Now you have two different options. You have slow and you have fast. Now, there's no difference. It's like having a 1x or a 2x. So if I stand right here, maybe 50%, and maybe a little bit less. We get that. Now, if I change it, it's going to go fast. So we are just going slower, and max is going to be this. And if I go fast, it's just like duplicating whatever rate that we have right here. Okay, so now it's time to talk about the poly and then mod, and then we are going to be doing sync as well. So right here what you can use the envelope to modulate something, or you can use the oscillator B frequency to modulate something else. Now notice that this knob, it says env right there at the end, and this one says oscillator B. So with this one, we can go from 0 all the way to positives, just like we get right here, and then we can go into negatives, because with this one, we use the envelope of the filter to do something, which could be frequency A, modulate the frequency of oscillator A, or we can do the filter, which is, it's not very useful right here because we already have it right here, but we can use the frequency of the B, oscillator B, to modulate the filter. So let's do it. I just have a pretty dark sound. I want to say dark, but not super bright, right? So again, we want to use the envelope to modulate something. What can we do? We can modulate the frequency of the A. So if I turn this on and play something, nothing happens. I need to move this one in order to say we want to do something. Remember, this one uses the envelope. So if it's all the way closed, we are not doing anything. So I'm going to be doing some attack, some decay, and then I'm going to be going no sustain and maybe a little bit of release. There you go. So if I play it, notice what happens. The oscillator 2 is off, of course, but we are modulating the frequency, this control, up and then down. Because we have no sustain. If I sustain it, it's going to go up, but it's going to stay somewhere in between. It's not going to go all the way down to the original pitch. And this is what we can do with this one. If I play a key, goes up and then goes down in frequency. Now, if I go to negatives, we are doing the opposite. We're going down pitch, and then at some point, it's going to go back to the original pitch. Now I'm going really aggressively. We can do just a tiny little bit. Right. So this is what we can do with this control. Pretty understandable. Then we have the other one, which is going to be the oscillator B. I'm going to stay right at the center, right here. I'm going to be using the oscillator number B to modulate the oscillator number A. Now, this goes from 0 all the way to 10, is a little bit different from this one. We cannot go into negatives. So think of this like intensity, like the LFO. We can go from nothing all the way aggressive. I'm going to go all the way up. Right now, it says modulate the frequency of the A. If we do it, not much is happening right now. I'm going to set the oscillator B maybe to, I'm going to go to a triangle, right? So we are in a triangle, and as soon as we play it, we are going to be getting a tiny little bit of modulation. Now, if you have the same values, you're not going to get much. You need to offset the oscillator A from the B in order to get something. If not, you're just going to get more of the same. If you're going really aggressively, I can go down and get just a tiny little bit. Remember that you can change this by semitones and not into octaves like I'm doing right now, and it's going to give you again a different sound. If I offset this, use maybe a combination of oscillators, maybe the pulse width, and I make it narrow. Notice that it's just, every move we make, it's just changing a little bit. Now, the other thing that you can do is use the oscillator B to modulate the filter. Right now, we are just affecting the frequency of the A. If I turn this off and go to the filter, the oscillator B is going to modulate this one. So I'm going to go maybe up to 6. And if I play it, notice that we get a tiny little bit of sizzle, mud. So if I go down, we start to get more. And this works the same way. Depends on what we do right here. It's going to affect the filter. There you go. Now, when we use this, going to the controls and changing the frequency maybe to free or maybe changing it to semitone, it will really change because right now we are locked into octaves. So when we go into the in-betweens of semitones, you are going to be getting different tones, right? Different timbres. So this is something that you need to, you need to experiment on your own. But by default, this is what we can do. We use the envelope to modulate the frequency, and then we use the oscillator B to modulate the frequency of the A or the filter. Now, in a few days, I'm going to be uploading a few videos creating different sounds and different patches, and we are going to be using this in a more practical way. All right, so let's talk about voice priority and vibrato. Now, settings and 9, the settings and then the number 9 is going to be the voice priority and then the glide settings. So for now, again, I'm standing on the performance, which means what you see is what you get. That's super right. Okay, so I want to go to settings, and once I'm there, I'm going to be pressing the number 9. Now, as soon as we press it, we are going to be getting a bunch of options like, the glide and then the pedal. In this case, I don't care about this. And I'm going to keep, tapping until we get voice priority. Now, if you have no idea what this is, right now you have three different options. You have low, you have high, and then you have last. Now, this means, and I'm going to go to unison for now. I'm going to stand on unison. Now, if I play a key and I play a higher key, notice that nothing happens. And it's because the priority is low. So this will only react to the lower keys, right? Only the lower keys, not the high keys. Now, if I change this to high, now it's going to be the opposite. If I play a higher key, but if I play a low, it will not do anything. Now, then the other option is going to be the last one, and this means it doesn't matter if it's low or high, it's just going to go and do it. So I'm going to press a high, it's doing it. I'm going to be pressing a low, it does it. Right, so here's where you change the voice priority. Now then you have the glide, and something I forgot to mention is the noise. You have a noise generator. I guess this is just way too simple. Now then you have the glide, and for now I'm just going to go all the way to off. So if I play a key and I do glide, if I play different keys, it's just going to glide like it would in just, whatever other synthesizer. Pretty simple. Now, within the same option in settings, you can go to the 9 and you have a glide option. And notice it says tine. Well, the N or whatever this is, it's an M. And the N and the M look exactly the same. So this is time and this is speed. So you have two main options. It's going to be a constant time or constant speed. So depending on what you're doing, the glide is going to be reacting a little bit different in how it goes up and down in pitch when you play a new key, right? But you have two options: time and constant time and constant speed. Okay, so let's talk about the vibrato, because it's a little bit funny. At the beginning, I had to do some research because it was, a little bit confusing. I'm going to give you an example. If I go to preset, I'm going to go maybe to preset number 1 and load a preset. Maybe I'm going to be loading a different one. Not this one. All right, so the 22 is going to be some kind of a strings pad. If I play a chord, this is how it sounds. Sounds really cool. So by default, when you get a synthesizer, you get a vibrato and you get the pitch wheel. Now, on this patch, when you're standing on a patch, and this is important, I'm going to be playing something, and now I'm going to use my mod wheel. See, if I go up, we get vibrato. If I use the pitch wheel, we go up and we can go down, right? Vibrato, up, down, and then up. Now, all of this seems to be very simple. Now, it's a little bit different right here. I'm loading a patch from factory, so we get that configuration right on. If I go to a default patch, you get pretty much nothing. You need to set it up yourself. If we're going to do that, I'm going to be standing on maybe B22, which is going to be a default patch, and just going to straightly go to performance. I'm going to go down in glide, and I'm going to be playing the same chord. If I go down on the mod wheel, I'm all the way up right now, and I'm getting nothing. If I go up on the pitch, we get it. Right, so we only get the pitch, but the mod wheel is not connected. So you need to set it up, right? How can we do so? Now we are standing on performance. If we go to the number 3, you will, start getting all the options. Now, if I keep tapping, we are going to be getting some options. Notice this modulation target. So that's the one we need to look for. But if you keep pressing, the next one is modulation delay. And the next one, I guess, is modulation amount. Now, right now, we need to focus on the target because what we want is vibrato. If I press it, mod wheel, and then target, you have two options. You have the vibrato, and if I move it, you have the LFO. So it means that with the mod wheel, you can do some vibrato, or you can modulate this control, this knob, this attenuator, which is the LFO. So you can use it to go up on the LFO. Now, in this case, I don't care about that. I want to use the vibrato. So now we are standing on vibrato for sure. Now, if I place something and go up on the mod wheel, we still get no vibrato at all. How come? It's on. Why we are not getting it? Now, the thing is that you have more options that you need to set up. The first is this, set it up to vibrato. And then standing on performance, we need to go to the number 2. Now, if I go to the number 2, it's going to say vibrato speed, and then it's going to say vibrato amount, right? So we have a couple of options right here. So we need to set it up. If I go to speed, it's 499, but if I go to vibrato amount, it's going to be 0. So this means that it doesn't matter if I'm using the mod wheel. It's not going to do it. We need to provide how much we want to do, and now we are getting it. Now I'm going to go all the way down to the mod wheel, and I'm going to go all the way up. And if I move my mod wheel on 3, 2, 1, we get it, right? But this is a little bit confusing because we need to go to, 2 different settings, 2 different places. But, once you get used to it, it's just pretty simple. So right here, I'm going to go all the way up on my mod wheel and play a chord. It's really crazy. You just can go down and use a tiny little bit. All right. Now remember that the number 2, if I tap it again, is going to say vibrato and then speed. I'm going to play the same thing. We are doing some vibrato. I'm going to go down on this one. And notice it's going slower. If I go up, it's super fast. So you need to set it up from here. That's the plan. Fine. Now on top of this, and I'm going to leave it around there. Now, on top of this, you have something else on the number 3, which is going to be the mod wheel amount. I'm going to go to the number 3. If I type it, it's going to be mod wheel and then amount. So you have different profiles. You have all the way down. I'm going to go to min. Then you have low. And then you have high. And you have full. If I stay on min all the way up on the mod wheel and play something, it's going to be like that. If I go to the next one, low, high, and then full. So it depends how aggressive you want your mod wheel to be. You need to go to Perf, then 3, and set whatever profile you want for your mod wheel. Now, there is a different option, which is not using the mod wheel for vibrato and controlling the initial amount of the LFO. Now, just to do this, if you have some vibrato, maybe you want to disable it. So I'm standing on performance. Right now, my vibrato is completely on. I'm going to go right there. And I'm going to set the speed to nothing. I'm just going to disable it. And I'm going to go to vibrato amount. And this is the most important one. I want no vibrato when I move my mod wheel. Now, still, we need to go to the number 3 and set it up in a different way. It's going to be mod wheel amount. Then it's going to be the target. And on this one, we have vibrato. No, what we want is LFO. And again, if you keep tapping at some point, you're going to be getting with the mod wheel amount. I'm going to stay on full. So we have the, the full modulation. Still, now we have the target assigned to LFO. Now we need to do something on the LFO just to get it. And for now, I'm just going to go to a pulse. And we are going to be doing the, the pulse width. I'm going to go down on the oscillator number 2. So what I want the pulse width modulation, but I want to control it with my mod wheel. If I do this, and I go to pulse width modulation, we get it. But remember, I want to control it with my mod wheel. Right now, it's all the way off. I'm going to be playing it. And if I go up on my mod wheel, I'm doing it right now, it works. So it's another thing that you need to set it up from here. If we are standing on modulation delay, not this one, then modulation amounts, we already know that one. Modulation target. If I change it to vibrato, we just don't get it. LFO, we do get it. If I go down on the LFO, we get nothing. I'm sorry, on the mod wheel, we get nothing. And if I go up on my mod wheel, we get it. But yeah, in conclusion, if you want the vibrato on your mod wheel, you need to set it up, or you can use the mod wheel to control the initial amount. Now, the other thing is going to be the pitch bend. If I play something and go up on my pitch, it's going to go up or it's going to go down. And pretty simple. If you're standing on performance, we can go to the number 5. And right here, we can have a few more options. It says pitch bend and then target. So by default, you get VCO, you get VCF, and you get off. And the other one is going to be volume. So if I go to, let me go to VCO, this is going to be pitch. Go all the way up, all the way down. It's just, doing it. But the other options will give you something else. If I go to VCF and go right there, it's going to control the cutoff. It's going to go up in the cutoff and it is going to go down. If I go to the next one, it's going to be volume. And as you could guess, it's going to go down in volume or go up in volume. All right. I'm going to move it and just go to VCO, which is going to be the usual pitch. Right? Let me go up here. I'm going to go up in pitch and I'm going to go down in pitch. But notice it's super aggressive. Up and down, super aggressive. It's still on the performance, and then we go back to the 5. The next option is going to be pitch bend range. And on this one, we can go to 24, which is max, but we can go down and make it, I don't know, an octave or something like that, or maybe make it go 6 up. So if I play it and go all the way up, it's not really aggressive, just a tiny little bit. And this is useful not just because you can control how much you go up in pitch or how much you go down, but also how much you do to the cutoff or you do to the volume if you're using that option. All right, so a cool thing that we get with the synthesizer is that we can do something cool like fine-tuning the envelopes. So I'm going to be maybe doing something like this so we can really hear the change. And I'm going to be maybe doing something with the envelopes right there. No attack, a little bit of decay, no sustain. What I want you to do is to match whatever I'm doing right here. So notice that Maybe I gotta go a little bit down. So we can see the movement, right? All right, so that's it, pretty much. That's what I want. I'm gonna be going to Perf, standing on Perf. We need to go to the number 4. And right here we have a few options. If I tap it, first it's gonna say VCA envelope shape. And if I tap it again, it's gonna be VCF. So you can set it up independently. So for now, I'm just gonna go to the VCF, VCA, no, it's not, there we go, VCF. Now, if I toggle this, it's going to be a little bit weird. It says SLIN. If I go to the next FXP, then we have FLIN, and then we have SEXP. So what this means is that you have a slow exponential. Yes, it's not sex. Then you have slow linear, and then you have fast exponential, and then fast linear. Now, I'm going to stand on slow and then linear and just check the difference. If I play linear, it's going to sound like this. Now, this is what it does. It changes the nature of the decay and makes it linear or exponential, which is with a tiny little curve. If I go to exponential, this is a little bit darker, closer. There we go. You really see the difference. Much faster, and then linear. Right? Now, we have the same thing. We have the other way, which is fast exponential, and it's going to be super short, right? And you can really notice the difference. Super short. And then linear is going to be, no, not that short. Right. Right, so it's super cool that we can select or we can change a little bit of the envelopes, and we are just not stuck with whatever we have right here, which is could be linear or exponential. Yeah, so this is a plus. All right, so now we need to talk about velocity in Aftertouch. You can configure it from here. If I play it, it sounds like that. Now we need to go to performance, and then the number 7 is going to be velocity. When you tap it, it's going to be VCF velocity and then VCA velocity. And just like we did before, we can set it up independently. And the values go up. And for now, I'm just gonna go maybe to VCA, which is just gonna be maybe a little bit easier to hear. And right now it's completely down. I'm gonna go all the way up, so it's super sensitive. Now, if I play a key very softly, it's going to be very low in volume. If I play hard, right, we get it. And then you have the same option, but for the velocity of the VCF right here. The next thing is the Aftertouch. If I go to the 8 is the VCA AT amount, same idea, then the 7, and then VCF Aftertouch amount. I'm going to stay on VCF, and I'm going to go all the way up, and I'm going to be doing something like that. If I play it, what is that? We get it. And I'm using Aftertouch. I'm going to be using the Aftertouch in 3, 2, 1. There we go. So it works. Now you can decide how aggressive it is from here. I'm going to go down and affect a little, just a tiny little bit. Right there. It just works. And you have the same thing for the VCA if you wanted to. All right. Alright, so let's talk about the sequencer. Now, before we can use a sequence or create a sequence, we need to adjust the clock and everything else. Now, the first option is going to be the sync source, the one that you have right here. If you type it, it's going to give you different sync source. So it's going to be internal, which is going to be the internal clock of the synthesizer. And if I tap it, it's going to be MIDI if you want to sync it up with MIDI. Then you have USB right there at the back. And then you have external, which is going to be this sync in. So whatever you want to sync in right here, you're going to be doing it from here, but you need to set it to external. Now for now, we're just going to be using the internal. Now, if we are using internal, it means that we need to adjust the BPMs or whatever clock that this has. And it's going to be this button, the sync clock. Now, when I press it, it's going to give you different options. It's going to be BPM. We can set up the BPMs from here. I'm gonna go to, I don't know, 110. Why not? If I press it again, is subdivisions. So we can use subdivisions, 1/16s. Then it's gonna be triplets and so on. 132s. We can go down, and this will offset whatever it is that we are doing. For now, I'm just gonna stay on 1/16s. right? And if I press it again, the next option is going to be swing. So yeah, we can do swing with this one. And if I press it again, is the note length. So think of this as the gate, something very common for all, to all sequencers. So the sequencer can hold up to 400 notes. Sequencer 1 and 2 combined, so it's 400 total. All right, so to record a sequence, it's just pretty simple. I'm going to go to rec, and now rec is on. Now I'm going to tap on the sequence 1, and notice that it says rec on, steady, and then the sequence 1 is just blinking. And now right there at the top is going to give you the note count. Remember, it's 400 total. So if it's 1, it means that it's attempting to record the step number 1 for the sequence 1 in this case. And as you keep playing notes, and you can do chords as well, it's going to, do the recording, and I'm going to do it right now. As soon as I keep playing notes, it's going to record until I'll let you know the note count. We can also, just let me do it with my right hand, it can do chords. And I'm going to leave it around 16. And one more. Now, when you're done recording your sequence, the only thing you need to do, remember this one is blinking, you press rec again, and you're done. If you want to hear the sequence, you just press it, and it's going to do it. Notice it's just doing the chords, so it can't do that. All right, pretty simple. If you want to stop it, press it, and you can stop the sequence. If I play it again, and you have voices available, you can play at the top if you wanted to, but remember that you need to have voices available. Now, remember, you have other options. If I go to here, we can change the BPM, and we can do it live, of course. It makes sense. It wouldn't be, that good if you couldn't do this. If I go to the subdivisions, we can change this by subdivisions, and notice it will react to this. So we can go really nuts with this if you wanted to. All right, so I'm gonna leave it on 16s. I'm gonna go to swing, and we get swing. We go all the way down, it's 50. Press it again, and now it's gonna be the note length. If I go down, again, it's just like the gate. I'm gonna go back to the 60s. And that's it, this is what we can do with the sequence. Then we have the sequence 2, and we can run the sequence in parallel with the number 1. That's, the trick. So if I want to record a sequence, it's the same idea on the number 2. I do a rec, and then I go to sequence number 2, and then we start to count from 1. And again, remember, it's 400 in total. Now on this one, I'm going to be recording higher keys, so we can really notice it. All right, so to confirm, I'm going to do a rec, and there we go. If I want to hear the sequence number 1, we get it. And if I want the sequence number 2, I'm going to be getting it. Right? Super simple. You can turn off the number 1 and just get the number 2. Now, what happens if I go over the 400 total, notes? Well, it's going to record them, but it's going to dispose the first ones. So you need to be careful with that. All right, so what if we wanted to edit the sequence? Now, this is a very simple sequencer. It's a very simple implementation of a sequencer. So it's very limited. So you cannot do a lot of things. Now, okay, so how can we edit? So it's the same way as recording, but we need to use the options that we have right here. So I'm going to be pressing rec, and I'm going to stand on the sequence number 1. It will tell you the number of notes that you have on the sequence number 1. So if we wanted right here, if we wanted to extend the sequence, I can play more keys, and notice it will just, keep adding notes. Now, the thing right here is that I don't want this. I want to start from the scratch. So the option 0, if we are standing on this sequence, it means that it will reinitialize the sequence. It's going to delete everything and start from step number 1. If I press it, it goes to the number 1, and now we have nothing. So this is the way we delete or dispose the sequence to start over. Now I'm going to be recording a couple of notes, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to do 4. So notice that I entered 4 notes, but it says 5. So the first note is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and it says 5 because it's awaiting for you to enter a note. And I'm telling you this because the number 1, the option number 1, is going to be remove the last step. So if I play the sequence, I'm going to go out of the rec, and I play it, is 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Now, I'm going to stop it. I'm going to enter into rec mode. And we are standing on 5. If I press the number 1, it's going to remove the last step. I'm going to do that. And it is 4. If I do it again, it's going to be 3. So now we have 2 notes on the sequence. And if I get out and I play it, we just get 2. So this is what you can do. You can reinitialize or remove the last step. That's all. Now we have an additional thing. I'm going to enter into rec mode. The option number 2 on the keypad is going to be rests. So if I press it, notice that the note count is going to go up. It's because we are adding rests. And then I'm going to be recording something. And I'm going to be adding more rests. Just to make it obvious. And then I'm going to be playing something. Now we rec to confirm. And if I play it, well, this is doing it, but we get rests within. All right. Alright, so as you can see, it's a very basic sequencer. I mean, it's not the main star of the show on this synth. It's something extra, let's say. Now, if you have an external sequencer, don't sell it because, this is very limited. But it's nice, for $400, we shouldn't even getting a sequencer, but we do, right? So we cannot really complain about the sequencer. Alright, so the final thing that we're going to be covering right here is the arpeggiator. And you have 2 buttons, and this is a little bit confusing. Let me just show you. If I go to this one and just, turn it on, and I play a chord, it's just doing it, right? Now, if I turn this off, and I go to this one, and I play a chord, it's just doing it. So what? The F is the difference. So these are just a little bit different. Now, this one, the arp assign, has different modes. So if I just press in this one and press the number 1, it's going to be assign, right? And it doesn't say anything. Now, if I play the number 2, it's random. So the thing is that the arp assign has 2 modes. The one is the as played, which is the number 1 right here, and the other one is random. So let me show you how this works. I'm going to go to the assign, which is the holding, and then the number 1. All right, so if I play one key, it's going to do that. Now, if I play a higher key, and then some other key in the middle, and then some other keys, notice that the order is a little bit different than just the normal ARP. And it's because this mode is as played. Right. The other one is going to be the random. If I go to that mode and I play something, we just get the random. So this is what you can do with the ARP assign, and this is the main nature of the ARP assign. The other one, this one, it's a little bit different. This is the more classic type of ARP. And again, just like any ARP, it has different modes. By holding this and going to the number 1, notice it says up. So if I play a chord, it's going to be up. The usual, arpeggio. If I go to the number 2, it's going to be down. So it's down. The number 3 is going to be up and down. I'm going to be playing it, and it goes up and down. And the last one is going to be up and down, but it's inclusive. So it means that it's going to repeat the last and the first. All right. So that's the arpeggiator. I know it's super simple, just like the sequencer, but again, you cannot ask more for $400. All right, so we are pretty much done with the synthesizer, and it's a pretty cool and complete synthesizer for $400. Now, there are a couple of things that you cannot do at this day, which is save or store your presets. I mean, you can, but you need to go through SysX. You don't have an application. Maybe yet, maybe in the future, you will get an update for the firmware and for the SynthThrive application, and we are going to be able to store and upload in a more easier way. Now, still, you have some options like the website I'm just showing you on the screen. On this one, you can connect it if you're using USB. It's going to enter to your synthesizer, and you can use it from the browser. You can access to the programs, and you can store and manage it and export your SysX files from here. So this is a cool way of doing it. And you have other applications. Some of them are paid, some of them are free. Where you can export and import and, handle all the different properties, like the ones you have right here, on a more easier way. Then you have your SynthThrive. You can connect this through USB. This is the official application. And you can, from here, if you go to General, manage most of the options you get from the synthesizer. And notice it's telling me there's a firmware update. It's a little bit chaotic at the moment because it's new. You can change a lot of things, especially for the connections, right? Now, I already checked the update, the release notes. It's all bug fixes and things like that. Nothing really, super big. I guess in the future, the SynthDrive application will give us a way of exporting and importing presets. So if Behringer is listening, that would be really cool. Right, so that's it pretty much on this one. Hopefully you liked all of this. Remember, I'm going to be uploading some other videos, creating patches and doing things like that. Now, if you liked all of this, please like and subscribe. And if you want to buy me a coffee just to say thanks, you can. Go to the links at the description, or you have the QR right there on the screen. You have PayPal, you have Patreon, and you have YouTube thanks. All right, so see you on the next one.